Hello, and welcome to the Explain It podcast. I am your host, Ingryd Hernandez, and I'm super excited to bring to you this. I'm always excited every time we have guests. Why? Because this podcast is about bringing experts in their field and having them explain what that expertise is and how you could take advantage of those expertise or leverage it for your own needs. What up, Sub 2 Drew? Thanks for coming on the podcast. My number one fan right there. Thanks, Drew. Anyway, so I want to bring onto the stage no one other than Dr. Noe Carranza. How are you, Noe?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. So, Dr. Noe, your path and my path somewhat crossed late last year. Oh no, he might be having some internet issues. Our paths crossed later last year when we both joined Owners Club, and then we both started talking about the things that mattered to us. And part of the things that mattered to us was to bring more education to our Latino community, because we see that there's a lot of information out there, but it's not necessarily targeted at that audience, right? Like that audience is expected to be our drywallers, our painters, our roofers, our HVAC guys, our plumbers. But how do we help them also elevate in that space? I mean, very famously, we know the story with Pace and him being a contractor, in that he could never think about being an investor. He thought he was in real estate. He really wasn't. He was a service in real estate, which is totally different. I think it was like Bethany, I don't remember her last name, who told him, like, you're not in real estate. I'm in real estate. I own real estate. I'm the one taking the risk with this real estate. You just work for me. And it's like, wow, to get that kind of feedback. So Noe and I were like, how do we help start turning the tables a little bit so that we can help more of our Latino community get started? Because they're already on the fringes. They're part of it, but they're not at the level.
1 foot in.
Yeah, 1 foot in. That's a good way of saying it. And so that's how you and I connected, that we wanted to make a stronger difference in our community. But how did you get started, Noe? How did you get started in real estate? And why are you a doctor? What's the doctor thing about?
Well, my 9 to 5 is a chiropractor, so that's what I do on a daily basis. So we run a multidisciplinary facility here. So we do chiro, medical, PT. We have a med spa also. But I did my 8 years, of school, started popping necks and backs. And, just started watching these HGTV shows. And I just thought, I could do this, it's simple. And funny enough, the way I started was just by flipping houses. I knew nothing about it. I knew we could do the work. I have a little bit of a background in construction and just kind of helping make an addition to our own home, my parents' home. And so I thought, hey, I can do all this. So where I was living in Avondale, Arizona at the time, there happened to be a house across the street that went on the market. And it was, run down, kind of a fixer-upper, if you would. And I put in an offer. And mind you, I was scared to death, right? Because I've never done this. So I was like, all right, well, whatever. We'll figure it out as we go. Put an offer. I got accepted. Took about a month or so to fix the house, working, early in the morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning before I went to go to work. And then after I came back home from worked till like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and just did it that way. And a little nerve wracking again, because of the unknown. And is the house going to sell? What's the market like? Mm-hmm. But we ended up making $30,000 on that flip. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is cool. I could do this. And that was 8 years ago now. And we've just been cranking them out now and grown in different ways in construction to where we do, renovations, additions, doing stick builds, ground up builds. So it's grown quite a bit and it's exciting.
Well, one of the things that are really unique about you, I think, and I think gives you a competitive edge, is that you have your own construction team. Because
Right.
in the fix and flip field of investing, I really truly believe that your GC or project manager, like those are the people who are either going to make or break you. Would you agree with that perspective?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Just because there's a lot of variables with that, right? You have a fixed budget and you have to stick to that budget. And if it goes over, I mean, there's not really much flexibility, and that's where you can start, um, going into the red. So being able to control those costs, having our own construction team, I mean, we're able to do it sometimes for half the cost.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so awesome. And I really truly believe like this is the piece of the puzzle. If you're getting into the fix and flip game, part of the puzzle is you still got to buy right. So you have to buy at a price where it's profitable. If you don't buy right, it's uphill from there to make a profit. But if you do buy right, the other piece of that is you need a construction team, a project management team that is going to deliver for you. And then I would love your perspective on this, because this is something that I felt was the key roles to a project manager or a GC. And I would love to know your feedback on this. So I feel if you have a project manager or GC, they have three jobs. One is quality. Two
Right.
is budget. And then three is to be on time.
Right.
Am I missing any of the core things that are the most important of those roles?
No, I think you hit all 3 points, right? And they're all important. Like, there's not one that's more important than the other. So yeah, I think they're all very, very important. But communication as well, it would be the only thing that I would add, right? Just communication with the individual that, I guess, owns the house or is doing the flip, because there's a lot of communication there. And just creates a lot of uncertainties. Um, and just to avoid any issues, just being open about, what's going right, what's going wrong, because sometimes you'll deal with GCs or subcontractors that are afraid to say, hey, look, it's going to take 2 weeks, it's going to take 3 weeks longer, 4 weeks. And then, you start losing money, or, you start being, how can I say this? It starts to create a lot of issues when really a simple phone call would take care of everything.
Yeah, it compounds. At the end of the day, it compounds what could have been a solvable problem. And at least as the investor, you can have more realistic expectations about what's happening. I mean, I feel I've had my own experiences in this space where they didn't include me in the problem solving, especially when prices got ridiculous. And
Right.
because I wasn't part of that discussion, I wasn't able to contribute to solve the problem. So I feel like you're absolutely right. The fourth one is communication and transparency as fast as possible. Because if things come up, I mean, you should expect that. If you're an investor, you should expect that. It's why you should always have a contingency budget. It's why you should just prepare your timelines. Like, what's your timeline you give your GC or PM, and then what's your real timeline, so that you're building in some flexibility. So I'm with you 100% on that. And if you don't have that clear and transparent communication, then it just adds a lot of mistrust. And maybe it's incorrectly placed mistrust, right? Just because they didn't let you know what was happening. I will say, so you and I met in Owners Club,
Right.
which was funny. Did you join Sub 2 before you joined Owners Club?
Yeah, I did join Sub 2. I think I joined Sub 2 maybe 4 years ago now.
Oh, and I just didn't know you until we joined Owners Club. That's so interesting. Wow. Um, I think he's got a little lag on his Wi-Fi, but that's interesting because that's Owners Club has been sort of an elevation of the folks who've been in Sub 2 or one of the other communities. And I'm getting to meet a lot of people who've been around a while, but I never got the chance to meet them before
Speaking of
that.
Wi-Fi,
Oh, Noe's
uh,
Wi-Fi is Noe, do whatever you have to do to get the Wi-Fi working. I'll keep talking. So, one of the things that Noe and I connected on this year, because I remember when I first met Noe, he was like, "We need to work on something together. We got to work on something together." And I was like, "Absolutely." I was so stoked to possibly do something. We almost got a deal out in Gilbert. In fact, we won the deal on a short sale process offer, but when they came back, they were asking for about 10,000 too much. Um, hey Noe, looks like we got you
hey,
good now. Okay,
hey,
it's that Wi-Fi. It's that West Side
okay, good.
Wi-Fi. See, you need this East Side Wi-Fi. I'm just kidding. I give him shit because he's out in like 91st Avenue and I-10, which is like an hour away from me. Anywho, well, he's still struggling with that Wi-Fi. So, uh, we did win a bid on an offer, but the bank wanted at least $10,000 more. And when I reran my numbers at that like adjusted market, so we had won the project in like January, or the offer was accepted by the seller. Now it needed to be accepted by the bank. And it took like 2-3 months for that to happen. And then I could clearly see what was happening in the market. The market was not working as well as it could have, which was going to put this project at a break even for us. And I was like, oh no, this is not going the right way. I'd rather lose my $2,000 earnest money, because that's what I had put in, than to go forward with this project. So that was one time when I was like, keep my money. This isn't going to work out. And that's exactly what happened. And then what I did, which I would encourage all of you to do, is I kept track. Like, I wanted to know how did the next person do, and they literally lost money on the deal. So I felt like my spidey sense were right. I saw that things were lagging way too long in that neighborhood, and that it wasn't going to fetch the price that we wanted without doing some major work. So, hey Noe, let's see if it works
Hey,
now.
sorry about that. My Wi-Fi is. Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries, I totally get it. Now we know, though, in the future when you come on the podcast, we'll just have to have you come over to the east side where the Wi-Fi works better.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh.
Um,
So what is it that you were saying? I apologize.
I was saying that we had won a bid in that Gilbert short sale, but the market had started shifting a bit, and I decided to lose my EMD on it because it didn't look like it was going to pan out. And I really do feel that my gut feeling, along with some of the data points that we were seeing, and the data points were not as clear. I want everybody to understand that this is not just math, but it's a little bit of art, where some properties I felt were, even though they were somewhat improved at their price point compared to where we were going to be after it was improved, I needed to see a bigger range, and I wasn't seeing it. And so,
Right.
and they were hanging out for a bit. So I was telling the audience that I actually kept track of the investor who ended up taking over the project, and they didn't make
Oh,
money
did
on the
you?
deal.
Oh man. Gee.
Yeah. By the
I
way,
forgot about that house, by the way.
their improvement of the house was way better than what I thought to do with the house, by the way. I actually think they invested even more than we would have, which may have been a reason why, like maybe they slightly over improved. But at the same time, yeah, like I was like, I wasn't wrong because I actually followed them on Instagram. I sent them a message and they're like, yeah, we didn't make money on this. On to the next one. And I was like, okay, cool. Their ARV was higher than the ARV that we had underwritten against. And because of the concessions that they had to give the buyer,
Hmm.
they didn't walk away with any money. So, and this was in Gilbert. Gilbert tends to have a higher ARV. It's a very strong appreciating market, but that's exactly what happened. So, um, I no, I don't regret losing $2,000 on that deal. So, anyway, that's my
Yeah,
perspective.
no, cut your losses.
Yeah, for sure. But then it allowed us to do a different deal together, which technically you were just really my savior on that. Had a deal that I had to take over because we were having trouble with the cost of the construction. Very much some of the things that we already talked about, like there were missing elements to that relationship and how it was going to get done. We were getting ready to lose thousands and thousands of dollars based on what was happening to the budget, and I had to buy it back. I had to buy back the property, just take over the property. And luckily, Noe was able to help me get the budget on track. We broke even on it as well, but we didn't actually lose money, which was better than expected given the circumstances we were put in.
Yeah, definitely. No, that one turned out really nice too. I mean, that project was interesting.
It was gorgeous. I think you guys did a
Yeah,
final amazing job. Like, what was really amazing about it too is that we barely started putting it in coming soon and we had traction. So we got that puppy under contract before fully going live on market. And that just speaks to the quality of your team, Noe, you, Sergio, and the rest of the team, and just what a wonderful job you guys did.
yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I really want the countertops that we put in there. What were they?
Oh man, you know what? I can't even remember what they were. They look beautiful. We
Yeah.
even considered, putting a backsplash in there. We didn't even put a backsplash in on that property, and it turned out like beautiful. The hood and everything with the cabinetry was awesome.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so one of the things you and I were talking about is
Right.
that this market has not been very kind the last year. You know,
Yeah.
everything is Gucci when your market is appreciating. You know, when I looked back at all my flips in the last year, year and a half, none of them were on budget and none of them were on time. But what saved us was the fact that the market was doing so well and we bought really well, right? And so that kind of helps mask maybe some of the things in your processes and your go to market that could be addressed. However, with the market having tightened up so much, that this is why they say you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And arguably, that's where we're at right now. It's hard to really reach those, very aggressive goals. So you have to look at how is your process built up? Who are you doing this business with, right? Like the right construction teams that are going to be respectful of your budgets and going to try really hard to stay the course. So part of that is why we're having a workshop, right, Noe? We
Right.
want we want folks to be aware of what does it take to flip. And the best time, in my opinion, to learn is when the market is tight, because those are the times where you get the most reps and uh, exercise on how you underwrite, how you're looking at deals, set the expectation that you're probably going to say no a lot, and really lean on folks like myself and you, Noe, to possibly JV with. Would you agree with that, Noe?
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think one of our biggest problems right now is just, finding a deal and making sure we underwrite correctly. And I don't know how many deals we've kind of said no to right now. It's unbelievable. I don't think I've said no to that many deals in that short of time. It's kind of crazy, and it just doesn't pencil out. So, um, you know, being able to kind of learn that while, like you said, the market is down, and understanding and really nailing down your process when it comes to your underwriting will just give you such a huge benefit when the market does improve, right? To be able to start flipping and making the numbers make sense. So, yeah, I would agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Awesome. And I know that part of what you and I have also been talking about is that we want it to be as available as possible, because there's some folks in my sphere who are like, hey, my dad mostly speaks Spanish and he's in construction. I can translate for him. Can we go to this workshop together? And so you and I kind of started talking about it, and we're like, why don't we make it both Spanish and English friendly?
Right.
And that is the point of why we're having a workshop on October 25th to kind of help guide folks on some of the ins and outs and things they need to know about fixing and flipping, especially in this market. And again, set the expectation that you should be saying no a lot. Like
Right.
this is where you start basically sharpening your knife, if you will, so that you are ready when the market starts to pick up.
Yeah. And I think that's where the value is in what we're trying to do, the workshop that we're trying to put on. Not only that, but also to get people involved in investing, right? Like you said, in our community, in the Hispanic community, um, they're predominantly the labor force. So it's like, okay, how can we help get that person to the next level? Because I hear it a lot, I see it a lot. It's like, oh, I see what you're doing. How do you do it? I don't have a bunch of money to be able to do it. You must have a ton of money just sitting there waiting to go. It's like, no, it's not even like that. You just have to learn to be really creative. A lot of people don't know about hard money lending, which is to us something basic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they think that it's impossible. So they say, okay, well, I'm never going to do that. But again, it's all very possible. It's just kind of understanding the process after you underwrite the deal, or I guess even before, but just kind of understanding how that all works. And really, you can realistically do a flip with zero money out of pocket. I've told a couple of people that, and it's like, what? You don't use any of your own money? It's like, no.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe. I get it. It's kind of crazy, but especially when, that they're used to paying everything cash, right? I have to pay everything cash. Like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of our goals too, is helping those people understand that, changing the
I was
mindset.
I was actually going to ask you about this because you are so good with all the mindset stuff. Like it's one of the reasons that like I really enjoy talking to you and working with you, is because you have such a positive outlook on so many of the things, like all my little struggles. I mean, you're a really great friend that I can lean on and be like, "Bro, like
Thank
help me out. What is this?" And then you just know how to spin it and kind of like redirect my energy. And I would argue, for any of you out there, if you don't have friends or confidants that's what you can do, keep keep searching. There's great people out there.
you.
But growing up, you're Latino. Is
Right.
that something that you had to like? How did you get so good with your mindset and being so positive? Because traditionally, right, for me, like for example, I was raised in like Colombia. Luckily for
Hmm.
me, quite a few people in my family were entrepreneurs. Like they're shoemakers, they worked in construction, they had restaurants. Even my grandmother like would sell food, and that's how she would provide for us. But so I always saw that perspective, not like work harder, but like work smarter, kind of a way of looking at life. But when I came to the United States, my mother, who was an immigrant here, she just like I was an immigrant, but I was a child. She just worked like cleaning jobs. She worked at Circus in Vegas. She worked at like a pizza shop when we lived in Italy. Like I only saw her trade her time for hours, and it felt like it was always going to be a grind. So, what was your like
Right.
experience, and then how did that shape you to be the kind of Noe you are now?
I think a lot of that came from my interaction with my patients. So, like, just a little background on me, we grew up doing landscaping. Like, from the time I was 10 years old, we were outside, doing landscaping. every weekend, every summer, 5 in the morning to like 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon. Like if there was sun, we were working. And I did that all the way through undergrad. When we were actually up at NAU, my brother and I, we would drive down on the weekends and we would work from Friday afternoon through Sunday night to have money for the week, and then we would go back up. And that was just, my parents or my father's like, hey, we have to work for everything that we have, and then if you need money, you just kind of have to hustle. And my parents, well, my father and his brothers own a nursery, a big wholesale nursery here in Arizona. So they have 90 acres out in Surprise and 100 acres out like in the Tonopah area where they just grow trees and shrubs and all that stuff. So that's kind of my background. But I told my dad one day, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't for me. And he's like, well, you need to go to school. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to go get a doctorate of some sort. And I actually wanted to be a pediatrician, believe it or not. And I got turned away from that, like got a little turned off because I didn't want to see sick kids all day. Not that I have anything against sick kids, but it's not really just, oh, I have a cold or this and that or an earache. It can be a little worse than that. I just didn't think I could handle that. And that's where I found chiropractic. But I think once I finished school and started growing my practice and having more interaction with my patients, I just saw these people come in and like they're hurting, right? They're battling every single day with not just pain but their own personal issues. And honestly, like 70% of my job is being a therapist. Like the adjusting part is nothing, and I give people quality time. Like it's not just come in, get your night pop, and leave out the door. And sometimes my staff gives me a hard time. It's like, hey, you're taking a long time in there. It's like, yeah, I know, but people deserve their time. And you end up, some of these patients that some I've had for over 10 years, and they're comfortable with you, and they start opening up a little bit, and they tell you the battle that they're having. You see a lot with depression, anxiety, a lot of personal, how can I say this? They're just hurting, they're hurting, and you learn to listen to them, and you're able to try to, well, for me, I understood that I had to help them through that because a lot of that can present itself as physical pain, and so I just learned to do it and learned to see everything with a glass half full mentality, and just improving my circle too, being around people that thought the same way. But I find myself being the person that tries to pick people up all the time because that's what I do every day in the office. So to answer your question, to make it short, I think it just stems from that, just having to do that for my patients, be the light for my patients. And now I try to do that for people on a daily basis, going up to somebody and just smiling or saying hello to a random stranger and having that conversation because everybody needs that. I mean, today's world is very dark. It's very scary, and you can change somebody's life with a simple smile or a hello. And that's just how I live my life every day.
I love that. And it translates to even just the way that I met you and we interacted. Like you could feel the love, if you will. Like it's genuine. And what I heard you say is that you're an empath. So interesting because I'm a justice studies major and I was planning to be a lawyer. And then when I learned so much more about the system and how you can't save everyone from the system, I knew it would crush me. And that if I was going to put myself in that environment, I was not going to, it was not going to end well. So I kind of had a similar experience in a different industry where I was like, I don't think I could do that. I don't think my nervous system could take what I was going to put myself through. So we're all in real estate now.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh man.
I just closed a deal today that was probably one of the worst buyer interactions that we've had, where their expectations were not on the same page, even though like the documents, like the paperwork, the transaction part was super, super simple. But just what they expected as an end product result from a seller moving out was just way out of this world. So I'm like, man, they must have really gotten burned at some point to have such expectations. But I'm like, it's been a while since somebody cussed at me the way that buyer was. And,
Well, congrats on the close, but we have to deal with that from time to time.
Yes, yes, yes. I would say 95% of the time, I have extremely grateful buyers who are so happy that they could buy a house through creative terms and be owners and not have to go through a bank to qualify. And so, for the most part, I feel like, again, 95% are very, very happy with the end result. This one was just one of those, a good and strong reminder for me and my team that we needed to improve some of our processes so that
Yeah,
we could mitigate some of
right.
that failed expectation. But yeah,
Yeah,
again, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that was a great example for us.
yeah. Well, and, everybody has a story. You don't know what they are going through or what they've gone through. So just being understanding. But yeah, that's awesome. At least you close the deal, and they're in a home, and everything will be all right.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So I am super excited about this workshop that we're working on. What are, you know what? I'm going to actually go look it up and share it with everybody. What are you excited about for this workshop, Noe? And let's kind of bring it to the people.
Well, I think the thing I'm most excited about is just being able to, um, you know, give the Hispanic community something that is different for them. Like again, like you said, they're the painters, they're the drywall guys, they're the concrete guys, and they don't think this is a possibility. Real estate investing isn't a thing. I remember growing up, like I didn't even know what a credit card was, right? So when I got my first one, I went and racked it up and destroyed my credit, right? And I knew nothing about that. And thankfully, obviously, it's a different story now, but just being able to provide this opportunity for them to be able to learn about investing and flipping and to
Mhm.
answer their questions in a safe place, right? Because I feel a lot of people are afraid to, or they're going to be judged because there's a lot of envy in our community as well. You see somebody grow, and instead of asking, "Oh, how did you do it?" or "Can I learn from you?" they're just pulled down, unfortunately. So I think it's a great opportunity for people.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought here I was thinking I was showing this screen, but I was not. But so here's our landing page. And I agree with you completely. Like we have been raised in very much a scarcity mindset. And so,
Right.
I felt it a lot even in the corporate world where you would only see one woman. Literally, what happened to me in the company I spent almost 16 years. There's one woman with a director level status. So my goal was to become a director, and she was in IT. And then she retired, and then there was no more women in that space, and so it felt like almost not obtainable. So I could see if somebody had that perspective of like, well, they're only giving one out, and who's going to take the next one, instead of figuring out how do we all get there. But that's, some of it is corporate culture, but especially being raised when you're constantly trading your time for money, the scarcity mindset just comes with it. I remember having my husband start to listen to the book called, gosh, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mindset. And if you guys are out
Mhm.
there, I promise you it's worth every minute of listening to this book. Secrets of, I'm going to put it in the chat. Um, let's see,
I haven't
by,
read that book.
no, it's by T. Harv
No.
Eker. I think the only thing that, being in this industry, you're like, oh, they're selling something. They are.
Hmm.
They do a lot of, face to face, like, um, workshops, just like what we're doing. Because there
Okay.
is a different experience when you're doing something face to face, just like they choose to be. But a lot of the book kind of teases out some of those things that you may not even know are impacting your limiting beliefs. Like, I had my husband listen to it on our way to Sedona, when we were
Hmm.
setting up one of our we have a luxury condo out there that's an Airbnb, in case anybody needs an Airbnb in Sedona to go stay at. And we listened through it, and he couldn't. like he was actually surprised how much of that was actually embedded in him, not
Mm,
even realizing. Because
right.
there's so many little things like money doesn't grow on trees. Well, what is that telling you? That money is really difficult to get to, right? So if your
Right.
brain believes that, your subconscious starts believing that, everything is difficult because it's not easy to obtain. So there's just a lot of little things that you may hear and not realize that, or like for me, I don't know, I would love your perspective on this, Noe. I remember, and I used to put my foot in my mouth all the time about this. I remember that my mom would say things to me like only white people could be rich, right? And
Mm,
that rich people don't care about us. Like
that
she
isn't
wouldn't
for us.
exactly say it exactly that way, but those were the takeaways that I had. And so I would say really stupid things that my friends who were white and had money, that I would tease and say things that were really incredibly stupid, but I didn't realize that that was a subconscious thing that was stuck in my head about how people uh, would act if they had money, right? So again, I strongly encourage reading this book because I realized just how much of that I was carrying along and didn't even know it. So,
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it comes from the way you were raised, right?
mhm. Oh yeah.
Um, again, a very limited mindset, scarcity mindset. And it's hard to make that mindset shift. So you have to get people around you or in your circle that kind of think a little bit different to get you to that point. And it's scary, right? It's very scary. Um, but you just, you know, I'm trying to think back to when I kind of had my mindset shift. Um, I can't even remember, to be honest with you. But yeah, I grew up the same way. It's like, oh, that isn't for us, or we don't belong there, or even just the little things like, oh, we don't have money for that, or you know, people with money have stuff like that.
Hmm.
But in reality, money is just a tool, um, and it's
Well,
very accessible.
and I love, so Jamil says money is energy, right?
Mm,
I've been listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza, and he also says the same thing. Money is energy. So if it's energy, you have to build yourself in such a way that you're going to attract, right? Because that's the way energy works. Energy is either attracted or not. And so, if you take that approach, there's certain things that you should consider doing. And I'm hopeful that we're going to cover a little bit of this with people because again, this might be their first time experiencing kind of like a mindset shift. And that's my hope is that like when we do this workshop on October 25th, which people you can sign up if you'd like, go to SpanglishREI.com. We're going to have one other fellow who's going to help us because we want to make sure everybody gets the English and Spanish experience when they're there. That's why we called it Spanglish REI. Our friend Felipe, who's going to help us a little bit with this too. So we'll have enough folks in the room that as we're explaining things in English, that you're also getting them in Spanish and understanding the concepts that we're teaching. But part of my goal with us doing this is to be able to, hey, Adriana, is to also kind of start shifting some mindsets because I really think that most of the people who are in and around construction, they have a lot of the main pieces. They just need somebody to help them click that mindset piece. But I want them to walk out knowing that they have the resources, knowing that they have potential joint venture partners with you and I, knowing that we can teach them how to underwrite, or very much just bring the opportunities to us and we can tell them whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but what are the things they need to be looking for so that they know it's a potential deal or not. So
yeah, no, 100%. I think that's one of my goals too, is to really, just to piggyback on what you said, is kind of helping people with that mindset, because these people, they don't realize it, but they have the best network when it comes to real estate or flipping or even building, right? Because in the beginning when I first started, I needed a tile guy, right? He's like, well, do you need an AC guy? I got a roofing guy. Do you need a flooring guy? They know everybody, every single trade, or somebody in every single trade, right? So if they
Mhm.
wanted to, they can get their buddies together and build a house, you know. But if we can translate that mindset to, hey, even if you get together with another buddy and do a flip together, then now you're winning together. Now you're collaborating. Now you're already changing your mindset versus, oh, this guy's going to take away from me, or I'm not going to tell him because he's going to learn and going to take the next deal. Like, part of that helps with that. So
Mhm.
that's one of my biggest things that I would like to do with our event, is to help people with their mindset and really make a change in thinking differently.
Yeah, think more abundantly for sure.
Right, right.
And I think, again, because if you look at the immigrant experience, right? Like, I'm an immigrant to this country. I was born in Colombia. And when I think about the experience here, it's like you're already climbing a hill because you are, I remember, well, when I first moved out of Colombia, and because we so quickly moved to Italy, I was learning Italian before I was learning English. And so communicating in English was somewhat embarrassing. Like, I couldn't even
Mhm.
say the word purse. I still remember that being a really difficult word for me to say when I was little. And so not only are you trying to assimilate into the culture that you're in, you're also trying to learn to speak the language correctly.
Uh-huh.
And uh, like my experience in Colombia was so different, right? Like, we used to play out in the streets, and everybody was playing tag, or hide and seek, and all the neighborhood kids knew each other, and we were outside a lot. And when we came to the United States, like, that wasn't the culture anymore. Like, here,
Mm,
at least where we were, everybody was in their own little house, in their own little space, and we didn't have that. Like, I had to rely on my friendship with my sister, right, who was 7 years younger than me. And so I didn't have like an inclusive experience, if you will. And so it always felt like I couldn't fit in. And so that was my experience. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Selena, where she's
yes.
like, I'm not Mexican enough for the Mexicans, and then I'm not white enough for the white, like, the Americans. And so, like, it's so exhausting. Let's go eat pizza. That was the scene with her and her dad. And that was the first time I saw a scene where it actually spelt out my frustration. Like,
Yeah,
I'm I know I'm white passing, right? Because I'm so light. But
right.
my experience was still very different. And so I've always felt like I'm not Latina enough for my Latino culture because I am so white. And then in my experience with my American friends, like, I'm too Latina for them sometimes. And it's just like, I don't know where I fit. So anyway, I don't know why I went down that rabbit hole.
That's okay. I didn't even know you lived in Italy.
Oh yeah, I lived there for a couple of years when my ex stepdad was in the Air Force. So we lived in
Okay.
a small city called Avellino, which was about an hour south of Naples.
Yeah.
And so we used to go to school on the base in Avellino for second grade, and then they shut it down because they were shutting down a whole bunch of bases before, like, what was that? Bush was in off the first Bush senior. Um, Anyways, there was like a war that was only 100 days, and he was only able to whatever it was, but they shut down a whole bunch of bases. And so then we ended up having to travel an hour to go to school at the Naples base. It was so cool. I still remember having my skates. I would take them with me, and
Uh-huh.
during lunchtime, we'd have this huge space where you could just go ride your skates and have have a good time. But anyway, that was recess for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was still around a lot of Americans, but because of where we lived, there was a lot of Italian kids. And so I would mostly speak Italian during that time. And so I almost didn't go to third grade because I was not catching on to English fast enough.
Oh man.
Adriana
Well, good
says,
thing you did.
yeah, yeah. Adriana says, I think a lot of people have great work ethic, but they are very naive on the investment world and they don't know how to grow. So this is a great opportunity to help people grow. Absolutely, Adriana.
100%.
I think it's our duty. I don't necessarily think that like uh it and I would love your feedback on this, Noe. Like, we've learned this now. So are we going to hold on to it, or are we going to, share and spread the love? I think it's my responsibility as an immigrant to
Right.
this country
Right.
to show others the possibilities. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that's the really cool thing about us kind of talking about this initially and having similar goals. It's like, hey, what can we do to move the needle?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not a gatekeeper with any of the information that I know. And I tell people every day, like, just message me on Instagram. I will teach you anything that I know how to do without anything in return. Uh, I'm a vessel of information for you because
Mm-hmm.
I want everybody to win, right? So let's work together, let's collaborate because everybody at the top is collaborating, right? And they all win. But when you're at the bottom, in terms of like mindset, everybody's fighting, or they feel like they have to compete and you don't. And for me and you, again, this is one of the conversations that we had. It's like, how can we create something so that we can teach people to collaborate or change that mindset? And it's like, well, it's a workshop. Let's go make a difference in our community. And that's how Spanglish REI came about. And that's our goal on October 25th is to really help people with that. So it's exciting, very exciting, but it's just, again, collaboration. Everybody wins. So let's
Yeah,
do it.
totally. And for me, I feel like we kept it reasonable so that anybody could join. You're going to then join our community of folks. So once you come to the workshop, we're going to put you on our Facebook group page so that as you continue on your journey and you need to have an opportunity to collaborate with folks, that you have that option. Again, myself and Noe, having had the experience and being able to go to a hard money lender and get really great rates, right? When you're brand
Yeah.
new, what makes it a little bit more difficult, and this happened to me, I don't know if it happened to you, Noe. I don't know how often you've worked with hard money lenders, but for me, I remember having about $40,000 when I first wanted to get started in real estate investing, and I wanted to flip. And so then I didn't know nada. I honestly, nothing. And so I called, I think it was one of the brokerages that also wholesale. And I was like, hey, I have this money in the bank. Is it enough for me to get started and get like a loan to fix up the house and put it on the market? When I told them I had $40,000, they said no. And I was
Hmm.
like, what? That's not enough to get started? Like, how do people get started if you have nothing, but you have a good deal? Like, how do you get
Yeah.
started? And so, luckily for me, that was my experience because I'm super persistent and I'm like, no, no can't be the answer. And that's when I started going on YouTube and figuring out there has to be a way because I've heard stories on like Bigger Pockets and whatnot of people doing it and they've had zero experience, zero money. How did they do it? And really being a part of a community where folks are more
Hmm.
willing to arbitrage their experience, right? So if they come to
Right.
us, you and know me and you, Noe, they're going to be able to arbitrage our experience. So that means
Yeah.
less down. Like my hard money lenders will give me 90% of purchase and 100% of
Yeah.
refund.
Same.
Yeah. So
Right.
if you're buying something at like, let's call it 250, 275, my upfront costs are less than $30,000 to close
Mm.
that deal. And then an additional working capital, which is very easy to raise for us from a gap lender, and then be in a deal like that with no cash out of pocket. So, as a newer person, that may not be possible for you. A hard money lender might require you to bring 15 to 20% down. And so then that end result may be a little bit harder. For you, Noe, when did you start using hard money? Because I didn't
Yeah.
use hard money from the get-go. Like, When did you start using hard money?
Well, you know what's crazy? I just thinking about it as you were talking about it. Like I've started using some new hard money lenders that want to see different, other flips that you have done. You know, they want to see, 4 or 5 flips within the past year or two. And
Mhm.
that might be difficult for somebody that's just starting. But for me, my personal experience is I got lucky because my sister-in-law actually works for a hard money lender. So she kind of vouched for me and said, "Hey, look, this is my brother-in-law. He wants to get into flipping. Can you kind of give him a chance, basically?" And that's how I did my first flip, is using them. But as I've gone to know different hard money lenders, I see where it might be a little difficult for people kind of coming in brand new into the flipping world. But to piggyback on what you said, JVing with somebody that has experience, or somebody in the community that we're hoping to build, or that we will build through Spanglish REI, uh, can help facilitate that, make that a little bit easier for people. But for me, my personal experience was that I just kind of happened to get lucky with my sister-in-law working for that hard money lender, and
Yeah.
I've used him ever since. And now I just use gap lender or private money lender for the rehab. Um, so that's how I get it done on my end. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that I got started, I had a private money lender who gave me both the purchase and the rehab. And
Mm,
so then after having some success with some of my flips, like the first one we did, we made 54 grand, for example. So I put that money aside because then he started changing his terms and he's like, "Hey, I'll do the purchase and you do the rehab." So he's trying to like push me to like be more responsible with my,
yeah.
always putting all of his money at risk, which totally respect. And so then that was the next way we started to do deals. And then I had a partnership where they mostly just did hard money. And so that became our combined experience because now I had flipped on my own, they had flipped on their own. And so I evolved into using hard money. Um,
Yeah.
and there's that you have to really math that out because if you're not giving yourself enough time to hold on to this money, know that it could impact you because every month that interest is due. And then you have so much timeline with before you have to ask for extensions or anything like that. A lot of extensions have been used, and even myself, I've had my own extensions. I'm actually working through a refinance out in Flagstaff right now. I've had asked for an extension, and they're only going to give extensions out to people who stay consistent about paying those bills on time. So it's important to be responsible with this money. And I believe a lot of hard money lenders also understand what's happening in this market. Like this
Yeah,
market is
definitely.
goofy. And so they're way willing to work with you if again, good communication, explain what's happening, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Let's
Adriana said it was your integrity that got you that money because it was easy to recommend you. I appreciate you saying
see.
that.
Yeah,
Right
no,
on.
but the cool thing is there's so many different ways to do it, right? Your experience is a little different than mine. But if you don't know, then everything is a no, right? Or everything is a failure unless you try. But that's the cool thing with the community, is like somebody has a different experience, right? So when you converse about that, then you think, oh, okay, it kind of turns on the light bulb. It's like, oh, I never thought about doing it that way. Or I can reach out to so and so and he can show me how to do it, or she can show me how to do it. So that's, we've discussed this, but one of our goals is in creating that community, everybody be able to collaborate or share information or knowledge, so that, again, we can all grow and we can all get this flip thing going, or the investing thing going. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that was one of the benefits to my previous partner where they had never done a creative fix and flip. And so I was able to walk them through what that looks like. And that meant that raising the capital for the missing piece was a lot more reasonable because our holding costs were a lot more reasonable. So that is another way. For example, we just call them subtails, right? Where you buy it
yeah.
sub Q and sell it on the retail market retail. So that's where the
Mm.
subtail piece comes. And it's been another great approach into fixing and flipping, especially when your numbers might be a little bit tighter or you're just trying to really stretch out that profit. And so I hope to leverage this community and this, workshop as a way to showcase to the folks who come and show them like, yeah, this is another way that you could buy. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
Well, thank you guys all for who out in the comments. Adriana, I love your participation. I would love to know what was a myth or something that you didn't realize you could quickly overcome by just joining a mentorship or watching podcasts like this. I would love to see what the audience has to say. Or if you have a question for Noe, it's another one too. And yes, he's taking new patients.
We get you some Botox too.
Oh my goodness. I'm so afraid
No,
of that.
not you. Not you.
No, I've never Botoxed in my life. I don't know.
No?
No, but I do feel like I have some 11s up here that maybe I would desire to do that. I just am so
Why are you getting so angry? Don't get angry.
No, I'm not. I'm just so focused. I'm like over here under
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I played softball for so many years of my life, and I didn't always wear a hat. So I feel like part of that is that too. But anyways, yeah, trying to get those 11s out. But cool. Well, just a reminder for all of you, SpanglishREI.com to get your ticket to go to this one-day workshop on October 25th. We're going to have lunch provided, have some coffee and stuff to get your day started. And we're going to share all the trade secrets, right? We want to make sure that people leave with all the information they need in order for them to be successful in getting started with fixing and flipping. Dale has joined the podcast sometimes, and what I call him, like, hey, it's Dale, but it's not Dale.
Dale.
What kind of doctor are you, Dr. Noe?
I'm a doctor of chiropractic.
Right on. There you go, doctor of chiropractic. And then over here on Instagram, we have Carla asking, or not, or at least providing feedback. The moment you realize your culture shaped your paradigm, you gain the power to shape your own. That's when freedom
I like that.
begins. Oh, I love it.
Like
That's
that.
awesome.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Super. You're gonna have to share that at the workshop.
Right? That's Felipe's girl. So definitely we have to. That I love it. Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm not seeing new questions. Thank you for all of you who participated both on YouTube and on Instagram. I see you both in both places. And Dr. Noe, thank you for taking this hour to come talk to us, to kind of share some of our visions for our community and how we want to start paying it forward. Any last thoughts before we close out for the day?
No. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. Excited to be here and share some information and talk about the workshop. I'm very excited about it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. Follow me on Instagram. That's at Dr. Noec. That's DRNOEC. And I'm sure you already follow Ingryd. If you don't, you should be. But feel free to ask any questions, whether it be about the workshop or anything related to real estate or anything else. But very excited to help, excited about the workshop. And if you could share for us, we would greatly appreciate it. And looking forward to that.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Noe. I'm looking forward to see how we can help reshape a lot of mindsets. Ultimately, that's our goal out here in Arizona. Appreciate everybody who participated. And like always, we are here on Wednesdays on the Explained It podcast from 1 to 2 p.m. And I would love your feedback there. Do you want to keep this 1 to 2? I'm actually considering maybe moving the show time a little bit later. I'm not sure yet. We're going to see. We might beta test that. So, but every Wednesday here on the Explain It podcast, we have amazing experts like Dr. Noe, who not only will crack that back, but will also fix your flip. So anyway, thank you guys so much. And have a great Wednesday. See you guys next week.
All right.